in your book. You're welcome to do it. I don't have all the details, but again, every shop's a little different, so the details change a little bit. But the very first thing is you got to have a good check-in procedure. So I tell people again, the very first part of your service process is the check-in process. When you go into a doctor's office, what's the very first thing that happens? You meet with the doctor? No, you start filling out what? Paperwork. You start filling out paperwork. They start getting information, okay? You don't meet with the doctor until you're checked in. The same thing is true in the service department. You've got to have a good check-in procedure. Now, what are some things we need to do during the check-in procedure? Well, we need to gather some customer information. Would you agree? Now, if it's a customer that we've had before and you're using software like Ideal, then the information is probably already in there. If it's not,
verify.
Okay, well, you do verify it because, again, I want to see it there. But what's some types of information we want on the customer? Bank account, PIN number. I'm not saying it's going to be expensive, but it is going to be expensive. It really is. Okay, so you're going to what? Name, address, home phone number. I don't care about a home phone number anymore. I want a what? Cell phone number. Why do you want a cell phone number? Text. Why would you text people?
You don't have to talk to them.
Okay, yeah. We certainly do not like customers, do we? I hate people. I don't want to talk to them. Right? No, we want to text them because of what? Okay, but even more important than that, how quickly, and Trevor, I'm going to ask you the question because I know you talked about this in Minneapolis. How quickly do people respond to a text? Over an email or a phone call?
95% of messages are responded to within 3 minutes.
So in 3 minutes. How many people in here have ever called a customer waiting to get a customer approval on something? You call them at their home, they're not there, you're closed when they're there, and all of a sudden they get it there. And if you do get a phone call, you don't have any documentation of it that they said that. Do people lie? Do their lips move? No. Okay. All right. So again, so in 3 minutes, I've got, with a text message, I've got that information. With Ideal, we had Eric that does your data gathering for Ideal and C Systems. I met with him in Minneapolis. This was another fascinating thing. So as he was talking, so Ideal, they have this process where they work with dealers to gather all this data together. It's really kind of fascinating. But one of the things he said, they had 500 dealers that are Ideal and C Systems users. And out of those 500 dealers they've gathered this data on, they got their information on their work orders and things. And one of the things they did a search for was cell phone numbers, okay? And only 17% of all the work orders out of those 500 dealers had a cell phone number. But he said, but of the top dealers, because they knew who the top dealers were, over 90% of the top dealers, and when they separated them out by the top dealers versus the lower or the average dealers, over 90% of the top dealers had the what? Okay, I'm just telling you that cell phone number has got to become a part of your check-in procedure, and you can't let people get by without getting it. I am tired of saying, well, my people just won't do it. Then beat them to death with a stick until they do. You've got to get that number. And even if you have to reward them in some way, we talked about this in Minneapolis, sometimes maybe it's, you know, for every cell phone number that you get or whatever, we do a drawing. So whoever, you get your name in this group, and once a week we do a drawing for a $50 gift card or whatever. So every time you get one, we put your name in there, and then we draw once a week for them just to get people in the habit of doing it. That cell phone number is a part of your check-in process. And if you're not doing it, shame on you guys. You've got to have that information there. What's some other things we need in the check-in procedure? Well, we need good questions to ask the customer. There's nothing worse if you're a technician in a shop, to have a work order comes back and says, fix it. Or how about this one? Doesn't run. Oh, that's a big one for us, right? Because when we go back in the shop, it always what? It always starts. So we've run 18 tanks of fuel through it, and it doesn't not run, okay? So I tell people again, so a part of your check-in process is you have to have a documented set of questions that whoever's checking equipment in always asks these questions. If somebody comes up to the counter, I get their information, they say, so help me understand what kind of issue you're having. Well, it doesn't run. I say, well, do you mean it doesn't run or doesn't start? Oh, no, it starts, it doesn't stay running. Well, that's different than doesn't run. Would you agree? Okay, and I say, well, when you say it starts but it doesn't run, how long does it run? Does it run for like only 3 seconds and stop? Or do you notice it runs for 5 or 10 minutes and then stops? Oh, no, it'll start and run for 5 or 10 minutes and then it just stops. Okay, well, now if you're a technician, you can already tell me it's not a what? It's not a fuel issue, right? It's not an ignition issue, right? Right? It's not an airflow issue. Okay, we have someone like a coil or something like that that's getting hot, and then what's happening? Then it's shutting it down. Because then I say, well, if you shut it off and you go out and have a cup of coffee or a glass of tea, oh, it always starts right back up again. Well, I already know what the problem is, but on the same second, it said, well, it only runs 3 seconds and stops. Okay, now what do we got? Okay, it's gonna be a fuel issue, right? It starts, so we know we're getting some fuel, but it doesn't keep enough fuel and keep it going. How much better would that be for a technician if he had basic information like that? I tell people, and that information helps our technicians be more efficient, and our technicians get bonuses on efficiency, so all they do is make more money. And by the way, if they make more money, you make more money. That's how it's called capitalism. Anybody familiar with the system? Works pretty well. Okay, so again, so you've got to have those questions there. Okay, you got to have those questions there. Now, if you're a part of our dealer success groups and our dealer toolbox, I have a whole list of questions called repair questions that are already set up in the toolbox to do those with. And I got those by working with technicians to say, hey, look, what question could we have asked on this machine that we would have figured what this was? They said, if they had just asked this question, I'd have known exactly right where to go from the beginning. I'm trying to make sure that when you come in and that work order comes into my shop, we are the most efficient we can possibly be on it. There's nothing more frustrating as a technician to have stuff that comes in that says, you make it run, right? Or, you know, it just needs to be serviced, right? And if you've got a small engine, the crank is bent on it. No, it needs more than service. You need an engine, right? So have a good check-in procedure.